Hey there, YouTube! So it seems only, logical that I would start my first vlog with a topic close to my heart, imposter syndrome. You know that feeling. The one that goes, what am I doing here? Definitely shouldn't be here. That fear you get that someone's going to say, I'm sorry, there's been a terrible mistake. You don't belong here. I'm sorry. Coined by Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes in 1978, the term describes an experience that certain individuals get when they are unable to internalize their own achievements and this kind of persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud. How do you know you have imposter syndrome? Silly question, really. Not really a syndrome, by the way. Both Clance and Imes, who initially coined the term, were like, imposter experience, we meant experience. It's not like an illness you can get. But I digress. 1. You discount all praise. That presentation was really good. You really got my attention. I really enjoyed it. This essay is, really well structured and well argued. Well done. Hey, great job! Yeah, you didn't believe a word of that, did you? And not through any fault of your family or friends or your teachers. As far as you're aware, they genuinely meant what they said. They were sincere. It's just that you happen to think that they're wrong. So wrong. And one day they will figure out how wrong they were. And you live in constant fear of that day. 2. Fear of failure. I don't think this is anyone's fault. As a society, we do not celebrate failure. Not until they've already become a proven track record for success. Failure is great. We love an underdog story. We love, that story where, someone, is super persistent. They just go at it and go at it and go at it, and then suddenly, success! But that part where you're, failing consistently, repeatedly, that's not, while that's actually happening, no one's celebrating that. No one's great job at your consistent, repeated failure, you idiot. Before the success part of it, you're just a crazy bitch with delusions of grandeur. But if you suffer from imposter syndrome, failure is also I don't know about you guys, but for me, any failure I get is the physical confirmation that that little voice in my head is right. The little voice that goes, ooh, don't do that. Just, What are you doing? What do you actually know about? You know nothing about, and no one gives a shit. No one gives a shit. Not again. Failure is the physical proof you needed that voice in your head is right. Bitch. This leads me on to 3. If failure confirms that inner critic, success is just a fluke. Fluke. Job you got, interview you aced, exam you passed, flukes, and they will figure it out. So why does this feeling even exist anyway? What possible evolutionary purpose does it serve to feel like a fraud all the time? Well, first things first, know that you're not alone. Neil Gaiman, Emma Watson, Sheryl Sandberg, reportedly all these people have felt the same feeling you've felt, which is, I guess kind of reassuring. And studies show it affects men and women pretty much equally. Women are just more willing to talk about it. So Clance and Imes, the ones who originally researched into this, their research actually focused on a group of high achieving women at their university who they'd kind of noticed kept being I think there's been an error. Anyway, so they researched this particular group of women, and this is what their research led them to kind of, pinpoint as 2 potential root causes. First case, your sibling is just so much smarter than you are. Or so your family keep telling you until you spend the rest of your life just trying to catch up to this sibling that's meant to be so much smarter than you are. For my own story, I feel like this is kind of legit. It wasn't a sibling in my case, it was a cousin. He was always top of his class, and it was always oh, so-and-so is always top of his class, and I was in elementary school a straight C, very average student, which, you know, a C is an Asian fail, so I was a dumb fuck, basically. Like, the idiot of the family, essentially. Yeah. That only got better after I was, like, 10. At which point, I got better grades, and then my family were kind of like, okay, I guess you're not that stupid. It's fine. You're allowed to be in the family. Second case is the complete opposite. You are the smartest, the brightest, the most gifted child your age. So when you inevitably come across something you cannot solve with your, superior intellect, you begin to question all of this. You're like, well, my parents were obviously wrong. I mean, I can't figure this out. And when you begin to question that, you begin to question your own assessment of your own abilities. Parents, I'm sorry, you can't win either way. So that's kind of, what Clance and Imes thought were two possible root causes. More recent studies, still looking at university students, FYI, I think this is definitely like a problem with the data, it's very skewed towards a certain population. But anyways, it kind of said, anyone from a minority background or anyone who's ever benefited from affirmative action, more predisposed towards getting this feeling. Which I totally understand. I think, as we've already covered, like most people will get this feeling at some point in their lives, but I think there's an extra layer of baggage if you're a woman or a person of color, or both at the same time. Because, especially if you're the only one in your class or in your group, you go from being you, an individual representing just yourself, an individual, to you, an individual representing this entire ethnic group, or this entire gender, which is just way too much baggage, man. Like, you definitely then get that feeling of, there is someone better for this job than me. I by no means want to let down my entire ethnic group or my entire gender, because that's like not possible. There's someone smarter or better at this job than me, for sure. I am the wrong person for this. All of this is to say that your environment and your experiences contribute to fuck you up in an entirely unique way, giving you a bucket load of insecurities that you're just gonna have to manage for the rest of your life. As best you can to pretend to be some kind of fully functioning, like, adult type person. So now you're probably thinking, great, but like, what do I do about that? What can I do about that? Look, so I suffer from this crippling doubt all the time, and I've definitely by no means found like the perfect solution for it. This is still something I struggle with a lot, but there are a few things that do, help. First of all, we've already covered, most people will get this feeling at some point in their lives, but like, for the sake of argument, for this video, let's assume that you're not just someone who like experienced it once. You're someone who deals with it constantly. Like, it is a deeply ingrained part of your personality, this feeling of being a fraud. Know this feeling means that you're, pretty humble and competent, actually. Which I get isn't the most sexy descriptor, humble and competent. Like, no one has that on their Tinder profile. Swipe right, I'm humble and competent. Although I take that back, I think I'd probably swipe right on a guy who was either of those things. Anyways, no one who worries this much about being a fraud is a slacker. Which means that on average, people, actually really like working with you. You get shit done. So if nothing else, you're definitely not getting fired. Yay! Secondly, just practice acknowledging that you've done good work. Like, most successes are a team effort. I think we as a society and the media likes to talk, likes to sell the story of a lone genius individual who's just like so much ahead of everyone else, but that's not really true. Those lone genius individuals had help and they probably fucked up to begin with too. No one is, born like perfect and ready. So you are no worse for having any luck or, external factor thing that contributed to your success, thereby invalidating it, am I right? You are no worse for having any of those things than any of the people you admire, because they all had those things too. Luck, external factors, someone to help them. They had all of those things too. And I think you'd agree that those things don't diminish their personal qualities or anything that, you admire about them. So those things don't diminish your personal qualities or anything that anyone else might admire about you. Finally, we all gotta start somewhere. And the more often you put yourself in unfamiliar situations or things that make you slightly uncomfortable, the more you get used to that feeling. And once you finally do the thing, the scary thing that makes you a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit once you do it, you realize that actually you are more capable than you think that you are. You can do more than you think you are able to. And it's okay to suck when you start out. In fact, it's 100% normal. But it's when you gain enough experience in whatever it is you're doing that you start to feel less of a fraud and more like someone who actually knows what they're talking about. And that's a pretty good feeling. Yeah. Have a nice day.